Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to His Will for Your Life. I am your host, Sherry Lavon Harris, and we have joining us this evening is Perkin Simpson. He's an executive at Urban Alliance in Connecticut. Sit back and relax, get a pen, paper, and be ready to take some notes. Please like, tag, and share. And when we get back onto the screen, please make sure that you comment and interact with our guests. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
His will. His will for your life with Cherie Harris. This is your weekly Wednesday 7 p.m. podcast. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Informative, hot topics, testimony, interviews, along with your weekly guests and more. And now here's your host, Cherie Harris.
Welcome back, and here is our guest, Perkins Simpson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Cherie. How are you?
I am well. I must let the audience know a little secret, right?
Yeah.
Perkins and I have grown up in the same church many years ago. What's that, in the 80s? And it's a blessing to know that he has continued in the walk, continued in his faith, and he continues to do kingdom work. We had an opportunity, what was it, like maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. We were called back to our home church when we were young, and we were able to minister to the youth. And so that was a great time. And that's the last time I saw you. So here we are now.
Wow. Well, it's a pleasure to see you again, and thank you for inviting me onto the show. So it's good people.
Thank you for accepting. So we're going to allow you right now just to share a little bit of what you do with our audience.
Sure. A little bit about what I do. Currently, I'm the executive director for Urban Alliance. We are a Hartford-based nonprofit. We deal with strengthening ministries. So if a ministry has a program, if it's a food pantry or if it's a homeless shelter or an addiction service care, we deal with those ministry programs and we equip them through a few things. First, we offer training. So we have trainings in terms of how to run the organization, different things that you face. Not only those do individuals in the ministries face individuals in need and working with families, but treating them how to respect individuals is a big part, as well as how to communicate. We also provide resources. We have a partnership with World Vision. If you walk into one section of our building, it looks like Costco, because Costco gives us the gifts in kind, and it helps those ministries operate their ministries, but also provides resources that they can distribute to those in need. And more recently, what we've been doing, in addition to that training, we've been looking at the issues and saying, how can we as Urban Alliance get more involved? So yes, we train, yes, we provide grants to organizations, but now we're doing things that were called collective impact. And we had our first event last month. It was a food distribution, something that we're going to do every single month. We have about 100 ministry partners operating about 130 programs. So we picked one site. It was New Dimension Christian Center in the West End of Hartford. And we arranged with another partner, Midwest Food Bank, to bring food to them. And the program started at 3. We had people starting to gather from 12 o'clock at noon, knowing that they had 3 hours to wait. And We were able to feed about 250 families. We got volunteers from the church, volunteers from Midwest, our own volunteers at Urban Alliance. And what we hope to do is a program like that, to do it each month at a different location, different partner location throughout the city. So we're looking to kind of be engaged more beyond the training room, and look at issues. Mental health is going on. So one of the things that we hope to see is getting mental health resource areas in any ministry or any program partner that we're working with. We're looking at education and equity. So we are trying to align the needs of the schools. We have a MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with Hartford Public Schools, and to detail their needs, and then go to our partners and say, okay, who can help provide any one of these needs. And the interesting thing, we are going to launch that program with teacher care packages. So in mid-September, we're going to pick 2 or 3 schools. And as a starting point, we're just going to give some teacher care packages. It's going to have a mug, some hot chocolate, some
Nice.
candy, some things. Just let them know that we care about them, because I think it's so important. So it just gives you a snippet of what we do at Urban Alliance. For me, it is a ministry, even though it's, technically one seat.
Right. We can, no matter how hard we try, being on a secular job still intertwines with what we believe, right? So
Yes,
we
yes.
can't separate the two. It's impossible, but we try because we have to, right?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So what type of time management one needs to become an executive?
I will say time management is critical, and there are different styles of management. There are different, you have to look and see where you are. For me, time management is something I had to learn. I had, I always did a lot, and, making sure that when you do a lot, that certain things don't fall through the cracks, because you can get caught up. So the time management combined with prioritization, and constantly looking and seeing, okay, what is important, what is critical, what needs to get done. Each day I come in, I might have my list of to-dos, and I may not get to them. I may not get to 1 or 2 because other things come up. And, the way I also, for me, I value those who I work with, the employees, and what they're. So for me, an open door policy is huge. It disrupts time management, because someone comes in, hey, can I talk to you about this? I want to make time for them, because not only is it's not just about me, it's about how they're servicing the community. And even as a nonprofit, we are faith-based, but we have a service to the community, but we also have a service to those who work within our doors. So I look at meeting the employee needs as just as important, and that's also part of the time management process. And just knowing who you are. My style is not 9 to 5, so I'll do a little bit on different times. I get up early. I enjoy those moments when I feel 100% and I could go.
Right.
If I'm not feeling 100%, if I'm 20, I've learned not to try to struggle through unless there's some deliverable that's so critical. I learned to step away, recharge, and come back. And then when you come back, you're able to do a lot more. I try to have a decent work-life balance, try to make sure that I incorporate. Been married for 22 years. My boys, I have a junior in high school, junior in college. So
Nice.
my high schooler, he has games and different things. I try to make sure I'm there. So I balance between work and family to make sure that the family life doesn't fall apart.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that is a balance. And that's so important because most of us don't have a balance, right?
Yeah.
So you talked about your employees and your staff. What motivates your employees and your staff?
What motivates them? I have been the director for Urban Alliance for about 1.5 years. Prior to that, I was with American Baptist Foundation for 13 years, and I served 10 years as their director. So I can kind of speak into both. The motivation for each individual is different, and as a leader, one of the best things that you can do is understand what motivates each person. The only way that you can do that is to speak with them and get to know them um, on a personal level. Doesn't mean you have to be best friends, but you have to, so for some people, it's success in their role. For other
Mhm.
people, it might be title. It's not, or and other people, it comes down to dollars and cents.
Right.
Um, I'll say one of the things that I admire most about both the staff that I had at American Baptist Foundation and here at Urban Alliance is the dedication. So they're very dedicated to what they do, and meeting the needs in terms of fulfilling their job responsibilities, seeing the impact on people's lives,
Mhm.
kind of feed into that. So that's what drives them, and that's what I admire about them. And it's a shared value in terms of where you go. So if you ask me, one of the things I would look at, I'm sure he is, you can have the most talented people, but if they're not dedicated,
Absolutely.
yeah, you want dedicated people, and you can teach them the skills, that'll come after.
And consistent. They have to be consistent, right?
Yes.
What are areas of opportunity for your organization?
Areas of opportunity for Urban Alliance, awareness.
Hmm.
I came to the organization, and people ask why would I leave a comfortable organization after 13 years? They were healthy, but I almost looked at it like a young LeBron James.
Hmm.
The sky's the limit. I had never heard of this organization, nor was I looking for a job. So coming in, it's kind of confirmed a lot of the things that I've looked for within the network. So if you ask the 100 churches, they know us.
Hmm.
But when I went out into the community and said, "Do you know us?" in many different ways, um, they would confuse us with Urban League. They would look think we're some, but they didn't know us. And also, part of the collective impact things that we're doing, a lot of the impact that we're having, um, I describe it this way: if you have three places, you have Urban Alliance in one place, you have or ministry partners in another, and then you have the community
Hmm.
um, in the third place. We were stuck between one and two. So we would just say, okay, we'll strengthen the ministries and we'll tell them to go. You
Hmm.
go to the community, you go to those in need. Um, the healthy ones did it well,
Hmm.
but there were a lot that said, okay, how do we get from two to three? You've taught us some theory,
Hmm.
still don't know what to do. So one of the things that we're working on is creating a bridge to go between two and three, go between our ministry partners and the community. So when we organized like even the food distribution drive, we took care of all the logistics. The partner didn't have to. We got all the food to them. We got the volunteers that they needed, even though they had many volunteers there. We got the the we even took surveys, so we got the surveys done. We got all the logistics to make their lives a lot easier, so that they could do something that they wouldn't have been able to do on their own. So we're doing that, and we're also looking at other community partners. Yes, we are faith based. We don't want to lose um, or Christian identity. But there are others that do good work. So we have partnership with schools, and even today I had a chance to speak with a few different nonprofits through the city council, and hoping to create some type of partnership and working relationship with others.
That's awesome. Amazing work. I wish I've known about you when I was in Connecticut. Uh,
Yeah.
known of the organization, I would say. What are good strategic plans for operating or starting a business that you can give to our audience?
Sure. Good plans for starting a business. First, get it out of your head, and you're hearing it from someone who keeps a lot of hair. Um, you can describe what it is you want to do in words as much as you want. It will have some impact. But when you put it down in writing, it changes the game.
Mm.
When you put it down in writing, you now have something to bring to someone, like a business plan that says, okay, here, take a look at it, because most of what they'll learn sometimes may not be a result of that conversation right there,
Mhm.
but it is what you put down, what they're able to bring back and analyze. It also shows that you do your homework.
Right.
It also gives the opportunity to get some input.
Mhm.
So, first thing is to put down what you want to do, what you want to start on paper. And the second thing is, what do you put down on paper?
Mhm.
Um, Start off with a mission statement. Think about a sentence that you can say in terms of how will the world be different
Mm.
because of this organization? How will it improve people's lives? And think about the mission statement in that capacity more than in terms of what you want to do, whether it's secular, whether it's nonprofit. Um, if you can meet a need, first of all, identify a need and then meet it, you have a successful business model, because the environment will tell you what's there. The second thing I would encourage individuals to do is to write a couple of lists down. The first list is write down who will be impacted by your business. So
Mm.
think about all the stakeholders, not only those who will be directly impacted, but indirectly impacted. So when we work with schools, where all students come to mind, teachers come to mind, but it's also the parents, and it's also those who might work at the school. So you want to think about out the box, because those are the individuals that you're going to end up needing to communicate. And why it's so important too is that when you do that, each one of those stakeholders, you have to come up with a different communication strategy for each,
Okay.
because they're each going to look for something different from what you have to offer.
Mhm.
So don't come in with one size fits all. Um, the third thing is, second question is, I would say, think about the supporters. Um, who's going to support you? Who's going to support you financially, also to be your cheerleader? If it's a for-profit business, how are you going to get paid?
Mhm.
That's vitally important. A lot of good ideas die on the vine because there's no funding
Mhm.
that keeps it going. So it's creating a business model and understanding who your supporters are, and then make it into a tagline. You
Mm.
know, find a way to get yourself to be um, recognizable. And you see the big companies; they all do it. Nike's got
Yeah.
Just Do It. You're in good hands with Allstate. Different things like
Yes.
think about something creative, and for what you do. So those are some suggestions that I would have in terms of just thinking about a business and starting it out. Um, and look at the different resources that are out there. There are a lot of different resources that even on the internet. You know,
Yeah.
you Google, put it down in writing.
Yes. Well, that's great information. And one of our viewers said that the same thing. Great information. I'll put it back up there for you to see. She said great information. Um,
Thank you so much.
so we kind of talked about it, but kind of didn't. So I want to ask you at least what are at least four entrepreneurial skills one must have to run a successful business?
Um, there are quite a few. I and it's let me digress by saying you have to know your strengths
Mm,
and your weaknesses.
wow.
So the first thing is to embrace your weaknesses and use them as an opportunity to strengthen um, your skills. You're only as strong as your weakest link,
Right.
and the good things that you do, will always be kind of shadowed by the one thing that you do wrong. So
Hmm.
you want to make sure that you strengthen your weaknesses. Second thing is not to be afraid of making mistakes. And this goes into being weaknesses. One of my staff members said, if you're not making any mistakes, you're not working.
True.
You're not working. So it's don't be afraid to go out there and try. You were asking specifically about values, though, right, Cherie? Is it?
Yeah, pretty much like your skills. What
Okay,
characteristics should one have when trying to
okay,
successfully operate a business? So we can put in.
sure. I'll also say the I'll also speak from a minority perspective, from a black male perspective,
Okay.
right? You have to have a thick skin.
Mm, yes.
Stereotypes are real,
Yeah.
and the environment will try to get you to play into a stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for black women, and you know this, Cherie, they want to describe you as emotional.
Yes.
For black men, we want to get put into a box that we're the angry black man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so sometimes we can't always do and say, especially in a diverse climate,
Mm-hmm.
what our counterparts can. And some people might say, "What do you mean?" Um, Sometimes I feel, and I explained this to my friends who's probably on the panel right now. You feel like a ball player, NBA player, and they're playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
and the crowd can say anything they want to you,
Right.
but you can't react.
Mm-hmm.
But the best thing for you to do is to make the shots.
Yes.
So just know that a lot of the things that get thrown at you are there to distract you from actually doing what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And for us as people as color, sometimes we are emotional
Right.
beings. And sometimes I see us falling victim to those emotions, wanting to react to everything that we see. And it sometimes takes our eye off the ball. Someone also said being able to accept constructive criticism. I saw that come up right on point. Um, my mother always told me there's truth in every lie. So
Yes.
when
Yes.
someone does you wrong,
Yes.
there's going to be some element that you
Yes, it is.
self-examine. Yeah, and yeah, self-examine yourself and say, okay, I know it's not necessarily true. It
Mm-hmm.
could be 99% false,
Mm-hmm.
but what is that 1% that's keeping that alive, especially if other people are buying into the same argument?
Absolutely.
So being able to take that. And I'll also say to in leadership, have a heart for people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I You read it in the managerial books, but it's seldom applied.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it'll you find yourself in a position um, caring and looking out for others more than they look out for you,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and that's something that you have to and want to deal with. So um, you can rule with an iron fist.
Mm-hmm.
When you do that, people will do only what is required.
Right.
You treat them, even deserved or undeserved. Um, you know, when they buy in, and they go in more. And when they do value and recognize that you're there for them, they'll go above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I've seen enough experiences. I've had experiences where people are like almost my enemy.
Yes.
By the
Tell
time
me.
we ended up on good terms. And some of them took years, and the grace of God, boy, but it'll take your Christianity away. So yeah, so those are some of the soft skills, because often you'll hear a lot of the things that you need to do: project management, time management, different things like that. Those are all important, but there are a lot of soft skills, and keeping your eye on the ball that is many things that aren't really mentioned as much, I think, are ultimately important.
Mm-hmm. I like to liken it to rowing a boat. You're rowing, but someone in the back is poking holes in the boat, right?
Hmm.
So you have to you have to know who your team is,
Yeah.
and treat them as such. I have another question for you as an executive. Um, Give me your best example of um, the way you've seen your organization work and make a difference.
Okay. Can I give you two examples? One is because of the tenure. I will the you don't want to fall into the Kmart. And for those of you in Hartford might remember Caldor and all of, it's
Those
they
are
were
my
on top of the
stores.
game. But the environment changed
Mhm,
and they did not.
mhm,
So you constantly have to analyze the environment and adjust what you have to do, not your values,
mhm,
not your core mission, but the way you apply it. So two experiences that when I went to American Baptist Foundation, we worked in philanthropy, and essentially the staff that did the outgoing and the outreach would go out and do estate planning seminars. If you ever been to an estate planning seminar, they're not fun.
mhm.
They can put you to sleep. Hopefully I'm not putting anyone to sleep tonight.
I don't think
Uh, but I went there and they were working with churches, and I was like, okay, they're trying to teach church individuals how to give in a different way. Remember the ministries after they pass and make accommodations, which is all good.
mhm.
Um, but the people that were in the room when I started to attend um, already had their wills.
Wow.
So it's almost like you're preaching to the choir. Second thing is, um, I didn't see a lot of the leadership sometimes.
Mhm,
So I didn't see the people who didn't have those plans in place and the leadership of the organization. So I said, okay, the first thing is they're giving, but many people they don't know what to give to.
okay.
So we revised the whole structure. We said, okay, who are the stakeholders? Number one, the ministries there.
Mhm,
So created a program that said, okay, let's go to the ministries and find out what their needs are and
okay.
help the ministries create something that people can give to.
Oh,
Takes longer, yes, but we ended up seeing a whole bunch of success from that. The organization was struggling when I first got there. 2008 made the market crash. By
mm,
the time I left, it was very healthy, and it was based on just simply listening to outside. Same thing with Urban Alliance. Very similar kind of story. The COVID happened, and COVID has happened to a lot of us.
yes.
Yes. So a lot of the people who knew us were those in the training room.
Mhm,
And even though we're trying to get them to go out into the community and do good work, many of them weren't able to do it. So being able to analyze and say, okay, what is our core value? We have a mission statement that's there. We have a tagline that says leveraging strength to change lives. So we kind of change that around, that we still keep the training, we still keep the resources, we still keep those different things. But now um, we're doing things like the food distribution program. And the interesting thing about impact that you had asked about was, for the first time, I'm seeing people come by and say, how can we be a part of this? So when we did it, we had two people from the public defender's office stop by and say, okay, what's going on? One of them I recently contacted. She said she can help me spread the word on the future distribution. She wants to be a volunteer herself.
mhm.
Um, Someone from CRT stopped by that I didn't even know of until this week. And
Wow.
CRT was like, okay, we're in the business of trying to help people too. We want to sign up individuals in need for SNAP benefits, for electrical benefits and different things. We're having trouble reaching the people, but everyone that we're trying to reach was there. So can we partner with you? Can we come alongside you? So when you start to see that energy around from the different stakeholders, then that is, to me, the true mark of um, senior impact, and not only that, but even the individuals that you're reaching. I enjoyed one of the things I enjoyed most was just speaking with the individuals. They go through life, and like when you're down, people want to kick you,
Yeah.
and sometimes they just want you to speak with them with respect. And I value it because I learn as much from the people who were served as much as I think I'm doing for them. So being able to, so that's the energy all around. You'll kind of know when you see it, but look for that energy, and that energy, the response, the curiosity about what you do, and the willingness to want to be a part of it. Um, Especially in the nonprofit arena, is good. and also in I think that applies to any business.
Awesome information. Awesome. Okay, so let's shift gears for a minute and talk about the philanthropy side.
Mhm.
Okay, as a philanthropist, what what's best? What's been your best giving experience, and what has been your worst?
For me, I mean, um, the ministry is important to me. So a lot of my things go to, in terms of my giving, it goes to my church, to the organizations that I work with.
Mhm.
So, I try to practice what I preach. I will also say that learning about different things in philanthropy, I mentioned my background at American Baptist. There are different ways to give. So philanthropy for me goes beyond just money. It's your time,
Yes.
it's your energy, and the skills that God has blessed you with. Those are important to give too, and God values that. Um, Recognizing the widow's mite as well. I'm, I'm seeing big dollars come in. They're impressive, but seeing someone that has given beyond what their means say
Mhm.
they should give,
Mhm.
to me speaks even more volumes. So um, I'm not sure if I'm answering that question right, Shri.
You
So
are.
let's get
You
back
are.
on.
Actually, you answered my second question as well. Well, my third, because that was a two-part. But you did. You answered it very well. Thank you.
Okay. Mhm.
Yes. So we have. So let me go on to the next one because you answered that. What does an organization need to qualify for funding? I know you just talked about ministry, but is there anything else that they need to qualify for funding?
Okay. Specifically with us, like with Urban Alliance, we are it's a kind of closed network. So in terms of how we provide funding to organizations, they have to be within the network. However, outside of that, when you look at general funding and reaching out,
Okay.
number one, you want to be specific about what you do.
Okay.
And what I mean is go beyond. If someone asks what your organization does, we feed
Mhm.
people. Great. Um, you want to go beyond that.
Okay.
Think about every dollar that comes into your organization as a money that was granted to you.
Mhm.
When you get grant monies, you have to report back. They want to know, how many people did you feed? What were your costs to feed them? Um, what was the timeline? Um, and I say this because it's something that I've learned, because initially I would be, if I, using just the feeding individuals as an analogy.
Mhm.
If I was me 10 years ago and I was starting um, a program that was feeding people, and I saw 5 people day one and 10 people, a week later, 50 people at the end of the month, 100 people at the end of the year, I'm looking at it like everything's working.
Yeah.
I don't need to count. I don't need to do all of that. So it's but there is a need to do it, because there's also a difference in the communication. At the end of the day, if someone asks me, "What are you doing?" and I say, "Okay, I'm feeding people," it's a different answer than I said, "We feed people," and guess what? We're able to feed 50 families last month, but there are hundreds of families more that need to be fed. Not only can you put in a number for the success, and the numbers I mentioned and those metrics are important for a couple of reasons. When you talk about giving and needing money, no one wants to give to need. So, one of my former staff members says no one wants to write the first check to an organization or the last check. They want to
Wow.
make sure that you're around. So even if you're struggling, don't emphasize the struggles, emphasize what you do. And that also, then the need is always so far greater than what we can do. So I don't care what type of feeding program you have, still keeping that analogy going, there's going to be more hungry people that need to be fed.
Yes.
And, there's a reason why, you look at those Ivy League schools and they have billions of dollars endowments, and people still keep giving to them. If you look at what they do and what they say, they don't just rest on the laurels. They talk about what's continually being done and what the needs are. And, you know, in business, we also need to do that, whether it be nonprofit, whether it be for profit. This is what's being accomplished. We need their help to get more. So I say that, going back to your first question about funding, there is a lot of grant money that is out there. And it doesn't matter who you speak with. You want to uh, keep that level of communication in place, keep the metrics in place. Um, Unfortunately, there are metrics that I don't necessarily like, but you have to do it. The need metrics are always there. So you can state how many families live in poverty, and especially in underrepresented areas like the city. The reason I say sometimes I don't like it is because it kind of puts a negative light on where we are. I grew up in Hartford, so going out, but it also emphasizes that the need is still there.
Yes.
So if we can ever get to a point where we don't have to state those statistics, um, that'll be a great day. But we're not there yet. So I would keep those things in mind. Treat everything like a grant. Look at if you want a good template. Go out and look for a grant application, even if you're not looking for grants, even if you're for profit. Look at a grant application, look at all the questions that they're asking you. And then if you can even find a grant report, what are those people reporting back to the grantor organization? If you can answer those questions, I know for nonprofits, you have actually addressed every single question that an individual donor wants to know, because they are actually the granting organizations are a little bit more meticulous in terms of what they look for, and they discriminate a little bit more. So if you can answer the questions for the granting organizations, you can, it's the same things that individuals look for.
Awesome. This is some great. I'm trying to write and conduct the interview at the same time. Do you prefer to give a little to several organizations or more to a few?
Right now, I mean, I've been blessed, but I'm not rich. So I try to give a little bit to a lot, and it comes in different ways. So, um, you know, you go to Dunkin' Donuts and they say you want to give $1. I always try to. In terms of the plans, there are things that resonate. My mom's a cancer survivor, so when they call, the fire department calls, those things, I try to give and spread as my little tidbits around as much as I can. They value it, and I hope they recognize my widow's mite when I do that. And I would also say that from a faith perspective, we're also judged. God brings angels on our way all the time. So there's philanthropy that you give that you'll get the tax write-off. There's philanthropy that you meet in every day. You meet someone in the street that says, "Hey, can you help me out?" And some people may say that, "Okay, I won't give because they're going to misuse the money." I can't say right or wrong, but from my perspective, my responsibility is to try to help out that individual at that time. If they choose to make the right decision, wonderful. If they choose to make the wrong decision, that's not on me, but my responsibility is to try to help out at that point. So corporately, I spread it around. Individually, I guess it's the same way, because that's how we're going to be judged. What did he do for the least of these my brethren? And we have an opportunity to exercise philanthropy much more than we think we do, almost daily.
I have a question. Do you consider your time volunteering as a valuable contribution?
Absolutely. That is actually one thing that I didn't mention that we do at Urban Alliance. We connect people with volunteers. But also, even me personally, the food distribution and the collective impact things that we do, I'm right there.
Mhm.
T-shirt sweaty, and I've got the box cutter in my hands. I'm distributing. I'm talking with people. Um, that is that's a different type of energy when you start to see people impacted. So absolutely, and that is also part of what we can offer. That's indeed valuable.
Mm, thank you. We have another question. As a small business owner living in a different state, how can your organization help others?
Um, I would say, in terms of different states, there may not be formal things that we can do. We are limited by geography and limited by funds. But there is a template, there's information sharing. Um, the needs are very similar wherever you go, but they are very local. Um, you know, Human trafficking exists in the city, but it also is there in the suburbs. It just looks different. Addiction is the same thing. So I think the networking together, and just even having conversations with individuals about how they approach different issues, different subjects, you actually may get more information from someone outside of your location because they don't view you as a competitor at that point.
Mm,
So they'll share all their secrets. So
yes.
I would say look at like-minded organizations. It doesn't even have to be like-minded, and just start to network. And I don't network well. I'll tell you that. Network is something I've had to
Really?
learn to do. So yeah, it's sharing with Cherie. I'm a introvert.
So
I'll
is
get
that
up. I'll get up there. I'll preach. I'll while I'm there in the moment, I might seem very extroverted, but I get my energy when I'm by myself.
mhm,
So but I've learned the value of networking, and just like friendships, they take energy.
mhm,
So when
yes.
you do meet people, get in touch with them.
Mhm.
Willing to give you the time and speak. So, yeah, for my organization, yeah, we are local. How can we get in touch? Okay, sorry, I just saw the question pop up.
How
Um,
can we get in touch with your organization?
there are a couple of ways to do it. Our website is www.urbanalliance.com. Um, now, I will say what you'll see on the website, it's beautiful, but we are actually changing our website. We're changing it to be more of a resource.
You
I
said
don't think
.com or .org? I'm sorry.
.com. .org was taken. So
Really?
if anyone has $50,000 that they want to give to us, someone has the .org, urbanalliance.org, and when you go to try to see if you could get it, they have a $50,000 price tag on it. So I
That's
guess
funny because I usually when I get a website and when I purchase the domain, I purchase all of them: the net, the com, the org.
yeah, I
Uh,
I agree with you. It's something I inherited. So I learned that from and I don't know, what the whole history was, but we are .com, even though we're nonprofit. And there's a contact us. My email, I don't know if people give email addresses, but I'm willing to do so if anyone needs to reach out. It's my name, Perkin, then a period, then Simpson. So Perkin, period, Simpson at urbanalliance.com. Um, and I'm available. So, I've learned that um, you can't do it by yourself. People have helped me along the way.
yeah,
And um, if there's anything that I can do, even though I'm still learning, I'll try.
yeah. That's me. I can help you, I'm going to help you. I don't think that we should always reinvent the wheel, but some others, some people don't need to help. So, what led to you being successful?
Um, I will say God's grace. Um, I feel in life that God values um, steps and energy and what you can bring. You can't always control the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
So, defining success is one thing. If you ask about maybe success in leadership, you sometimes need a break. But um, that's where my faith comes in, because the things that we go through, I don't think God wastes them. And get in where you fit in. Um, I my first leadership position, um, when I started off as a VP of finance, and even at American Baptist in 2008. And even getting that role, the individual who I met them by chance.
Mm.
I'm ordained. So there was a ministerial group. I didn't feel like going. It was a Saturday morning. I'm like, I want to sit down and
Wow.
lie in the bed. So, but my wife said, get up and go. And just by chance, the individual who was running the seminar, it was a lady by the name of Kate Harvey. Her husband was with her. He never went with her.
Mm.
And he was like, we have this opportunity. What do you do? And he just asked me, we went out to eat as a group after. So he's asked what I did. And he said, do you want to throw your hat in the ring? And I said, yeah. So that ended up happening. Second thing is, when I got there, 2008 happened, and the organization was very in tune with finances. It was a Euro organization before I went there,
Mm.
very Euro. And so the ship started to go down, and no one wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
No one wanted the position after the other
Right.
director left. No one wanted it. So what I've also learned is that sometimes when God puts you in a place, regardless of what's there, He's never going to bring you where His grace can't sustain you.
Hallelujah.
So take the opportunities that sometimes that other people don't want.
Mm.
Um, I'll even say, when I was in the corporate world, um, I saw little tidbits that were it was kind of interesting. They asked everyone. We were in a call center, and I worked with insurance, right? And they asked people to come in and volunteer over a weekend, and no one hardly did it,
Mm-hmm.
including myself. And the two or three people that did, when it was time for promotion, they ended up being the ones to get the position and move ahead. So it's a willingness to kind of do what other people um, don't want to do. And I'll also speak from um, you don't want to change who you are, but part of my background too is I was a broker at UBS.
Okay.
Started out, did it for a couple of years, and our counterparts have some different tips
Mm-hmm.
about how they think about things that are much different
Mm-hmm.
than I did growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Different outlook in terms of, even how they grow their kids,
Yeah.
um, even how they think about their time and their energy. So um, I'd say learn from the environment sometimes. And but most of all, I chalk it back up to faith again. But faith without works, and don't be afraid to do things. Get yourself out there as much as you can, even when you think it makes no impact. There's so many stories that people just go to one place and meet people, um, and it seems just by chance. But God is not a God of, well, they say coincidences when He chooses to remain anonymous. So um, put in, just be busy, just be vigilant, not wasting your time. But go out there. And again, speaking from a person who's an introvert, that wasn't always the easiest thing for me. Um,
So we have another question for you, sir. What advice do you have for people in corporate America that want to change to the nonprofit world?
okay. Um, I'll ask two things. I'll answer that in two different ways. First of all, make sure that you have enough to sustain you. So if you are looking at maybe starting your own nonprofit, keep your corporate job till you get on your feet. Don't just necessarily rush out the door. But think about your family and what you do, and it also gives you an opportunity to test the field. Um, if you want to go into nonprofit world, um, make sure it's something that you want to do and value, but coming with a strong business plan. Think about how that organization is going to sustain. I asked the questions earlier about who you're going to support, but more importantly, who's going to support you. Um, so continue. Don't be afraid to share information. Um, you'll think that people may steal your idea, but honestly, the difference between success and not is I find a lot of people have ideas, but not many people act on it. One of the things I did on the side when I was in PA was a little eBay business. Um, and it did well. I'll tell you what I did. They had places like Marshalls and Ross. They'd have clearances. And it started off, I bought a pair of sneakers that I brought home. It wouldn't fit. I tried to bring it back and they wouldn't take it back because I didn't have my receipt. So I put it online. And I was like, they paid this for that. I got this. So I started looking but the thing is, it's also then it's a good idea because you can just sell it, but you have to take the pictures.
Mhm.
You have to write descriptions. And I found that there are different things that I even carry over to now in terms of how you communicate. Some people just take any old picture. They'll, not put anything in the description, but I found that when I put it down like a store and I described the product, it sold. And even though I'm not in that arena anymore, it it taught me, and that also goes to answer that the question about moving over into the nonprofit. The nonprofit is just because it's nonprofit, it's still you've got to has all the elements of business. So you've got to treat it that way. Um, the nice thing I like about the nonprofit is it does give that impact, and not that nonprofits don't do for profits don't do a lot of things that help people. That's not correct at all, but usually the nonprofit has a direct tie to that. And yeah, someone wrote down presentation is key. It's actually very, very important being able to communicate.
Mhm.
Um, so practice um, what you have. I will also make sure that whatever you bring out is, and I'll also say another area that I had to work on is being detailed.
Mm.
Making sure that when you do present what you do present, there are no mistakes in it. There are going to be mistakes here and there, but you don't want the ones that cripple you. Ask people to look over, get ideas. So share the ideas, get input from as many places as you can, even if it's to review a presentation, even review documents. That proofreading, that editing, vitally important, because if you give something and it has um, maybe a mistake someone will overlook, but if it starts to have 3 or 4 mistakes, then that's a reflection in terms of your business, what you're trying to do, even if that's not the case. Um, yeah. A long-winded answer, so forgive me.
No, that's a great answer. You're very knowledgeable, as someone did mention. Um, I have no more questions for you. The questions that I did have, you entwined and answered them in your other answers. But I thank you so much for being a part of our podcast and setting the tone that's going to happen for the rest of the month as it relates to the business, Entrepreneurs Month, right? And
Yeah.
I want to come from the point of view of kingdom, even though it's secular positions, but we have to work um, in terms of the kingdom because we are working for God, even in our secular jobs. So I think it's very important that you mention ministry, that you do it as a man of integrity, because sometimes we lack that even as believers. We lack being integral. So thank you again for being a part. If there's any closing remarks that you want to give, any takeaways from this interview, you can do it at this time.
Sure. First of all, just thank you, Cherie, for the invitation. And just I do reflect back on one question about an individual asked about moving from the corporate world to the nonprofit. My answer was this: one of the components. At some point, you have to make the jump. You have to leave, especially if things are going right. So my answer to that is really just isolated to a particular. There's going to be many different situations, many different variables. So it didn't really fully answer every question or every thought relating to that question. And I just want to say thank you for the comments that I saw and the questions that popped up too as well. And just thank you again, Cherie. It's wonderful what you're doing. And I wish you all continued success. It's good to see you again, Pilgrim Way all the way.
Pilgrim Way. Yes, I love the roots that I received from Pilgrim Way, learning from Reverend Lawson. I've never forgot the values that he taught, and I carried them over into my adulthood. So yes, that was good grounds for us.
Amen.
So look at us now, right?
Yeah, well, God bless everyone, and thank you for giving me the time to share.
You're welcome. Thank you again. Anyone have any closing questions that you want to ask before we go off the air? You may do so at this time. Well, thank you again. And guys, have a great evening. Please come back next week. We are going to have our guest, Martin and Nell Barrett, who will talk again on entrepreneurship. And they're married, so they're going to talk about partnering and business as well. So please join us. Come back with your questions. Come back with your pen and paper, and we'll see you all next week. God bless.
God bless.
Wait a minute. Some questions coming through. They do this every time I. Oh, no questions. I'm sorry. Excellent program tonight. Yes, thanks. Do you remember Mary Green? Mary Green?
I am trying to. I'm seeing the picture pop up. The face does look recognizable. I am terrible at names. I didn't say that. I'll openly admit that. But I'm very good with faces, and I am seeing that it may have been years.
Yeah, it's been years. My mom was on earlier as well.
Okay.
But again, you guys, good night. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you all next week.
All right. God bless.
God bless.
Please join us again next week for another riveting, informative segment of His Will for Your Life podcast with Cherie and our special guest,